I'm Joseph Winovich, Professor of Engineering, Architecture, and Computer Science. This is a quick review of everything in the course, introductory course in high tech for the final exam. Share screen. My website, lots of architecture, computer engineering, all that. 60 years of stuff, mostly computer engineering. Go to the syllabi here and find this course, and we'll see the final exam review sheets actually listed right here now. And so this is it. And so I'm going to quickly go through all this. Everything in parentheses is what you need to know. So it's on Tuesday, May 10th, 2:30 p.m. in here. Closed book, closed note, no calculator, no computer, anything. So first thing is powers of 10. Know all but the precise powers. Let's look at that real quick. What's that mean? So you don't have to memorize these precise powers, but you need to know powers of 2, powers of 10, Greek symbols, Greek names, and American names, and also relevance to computing, high and low. Next is chip manufacturing process, all of the first diagram. This diagram, not that one. Thirdly is atoms and transistors, know doping and how each type of transistor works. So you don't have to memorize the periodic table or all the valence shells and all that. Don't have to do that. But I do want you to understand doping. So you should understand doping. This is doping semiconductors, N-type, P-type, what that means and how that looks at an atomic level. And then also how transistors work. You don't have to do circuit analysis or anything like that. But I did put a little blurb down here just for all of you, is to know in the introductory tech course, the difference between a binary or bipolar junction transistor and a MOSFET, field effect transistors, and how they work in words. Nextly is Moore's law, all but no calculations. So you should understand, so you don't have to do the calculations here, but you should understand that it's something like this. So anything that looks like that just can't hold. And so it's just not feasible to hold over time. Transistor stop shrinking. It's not on the exam, so you don't have to know that. And I just showed real quick here that had to do with 3D and things changing over time, but that's not on the exam. History, not on the exam again. You just show that real quick. So, there's lots of nice little blurbs in there. Fun, but not going to quiz you because I also have other history section. So this, I do want you to know stuff out of here. So all that is highlighted except the company names. So I want you to go in there and everything in yellow. Dates and events. Not a lot. There used to be like 3 times as much. All that and the newer stuff too. And how the Nasdaq and the Dow work, and the major collapses in 2008, the .com in 2002-ish, and also the housing bubble in 2008. And you don't have to know all the highlighted companies, but you do need to know the Nasdaq, what that is. Don't memorize all these. And I put them in green actually, so I think everything yellow is memorizable now. I used to have them all yellow. Okay, conceptual architecture, know all that. And that's a very basic thing here, but you should understand the difference between data bus, address bus, memory, CPU, and the basic sketch of everything. Yeah. Levels of computing. So only slides 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 18, 19. I'm not going to remember all this. 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's do that first. 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here's 1, and then not on any of this. Then 8 is this one. And then 9, 10, 11, 12 is known as MP, MPP, and vector register, and the network, and be able to sketch those. And then the other ones were 13, 16, 18, 19, 13, 16, 18, 19. 13, 16, 18, 19, 13. Here, so that right, 13, not that, 1316. Minimal computer architecture. Yep, of that. 18. Yep, 19. Microcontroller versus microprocessor, modern exam. That's this paper. Just show real quick. A lot of you have seen that. So, there's stuff in here, but that I wanted you to know. It's in the other, highlighted in other places. So other students in the past have memorized some of that in here. And you do too, but it's in another lecture. On my research on quality control, not on exam, just show you what that looked like real quick here. So that's random number theory and generators applied. They patented this inside of IBM. I wrote this, but implemented this and all the APIs into a custom kernel, test supercomputers, USA and Germany. And there's a publication about that. The advanced students need to know that. Not in here. Intro to cache design, temporal and spatial locality reference, cache block size rationale, SMP and MPP. So, cache temporal spatial locality reference, sketching SMP and MPP. I know that from the other one too. And then your block size, which really has to do with the spatial locality reference. Why you grab chunks if there's a miss, because in all likelihood, the next thing you want to do is in an array or in a loop. It's an instruction data, might be an array. And so if you have a miss, you want to grab a big giant chunk, put that in the cache, because very likely you're going to need something nearby what you just accessed and missed before a miss. Number representations, I say all in there. So you should know what ASCII is. It's not a number representation. You should know binary, you should know hex. You should know how to convert between binary and decimal. This is not the very first course in computing, so you should know how to do all this back and forth from base 10 to base binary. Now, I promise that I'm not going to put a very difficult problem on here. So I'm not going to make you memorize all of this stuff. I just want you to get the concept down of the format for both single and double precision binary floating point, and then the fractional part works a little bit differently. And so I say all of these, but I can promise you, I guess I should write it here, but you have a video telling you I'm not going to make it hard at all. It's like going to be an obvious thing, and probably a multiple choice if I even do, because I'm not allowing calculators. Here's a floating point example. That's just the fractional part that was part of the other one. 2, and then floating point example. So this should make some sense to you, the representations and how that lays out. Okay. Then nextly, PC design, PC1, all except 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All except 7, 9, 10, 11, 13. So everything except that 10, 10, 11. So I don't know that, but 11, 13, or I think it's at 12, 13. 11, 13. Well, okay, I won't ask 11 either. Yeah, so 11, okay. And then the second half of all that, everything except 4 to 12, 15 to 18. So everything except 4, that's not the right one. PC line 2 right here. 4 to 12. So you should know this, you should know clocks work and batteries and that. But don't memorize all these boards. These are boards of all different years, so don't worry about all these different boards, a lot of those details, or all that stuff. But then do know some of this, basic principles, and on the horizon stuff, some of that. But don't memorize all this, all these connectors and all that. Don't worry about all the connectors. So no connectors. RISC versus CISC, not on exam. What did that look like? That was just this stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. That. assembly versus advantages and disadvantages of assembly language. So that's one little slide right there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Advantages, disadvantages. Physics and technology waves, all but last 4 questions on slide 10. So this is waves, both digital and analog waves, and know everything about waves. And except don't worry about these last 4 questions here because it's just trivia. Although it lends itself to understanding difference between the speed of sound and the speed of light, that kind of thing. Order of magnitude differences, which is important in computing too. Then down here, computer graphics, not an exam. That's just a book chapter. I won't even click on that. But graphics boards, all except 5 and 11 to 27. So know all this, know all this. Don't have to memorize all that. That's 5. And then know all this stuff, GPUs. But don't worry about 11 to 27, which is just all these details of looking at all this stuff, the benchmarks, performance metrics. Memorize all those. Don't memorize all those. Then human versus machine vision. We skipped something. Yeah, I skipped over there. So I did that waves, but I skipped this one. Human versus machine vision. No beta movement, and the 4 ways are eyes are different from the camera. So you dig around in here, no beta movement, and then you'll find in here a comparison of how our eyes are different from the machine. You don't have to memorize the rest of that. And then natural man-made light. That's a whole architectural lighting and design thing. It's 100-something slides in that thing, so I won't go through all that, but that's a million things in there that you don't have to know. And then physics of color and displays, know all about RGB, CRT, LCD, and plasma. So in here, you should understand color and additive subtractive color. You need to understand RGB values and how those work, how CRT functions, how an LCD functions, how a plasma screen functions in words and pictures if necessary. But don't memorize all this other stuff. This is all qualitative kind of other things. Well, need to know. All of that was good information, but okay. Memory and storage, these are book chapters, not an exam, but there are nice notes in here that I edited and out of the book. Same with storage, nothing there. The processors, not an exam either. That's just a history thing too. Actually, some IBM stuff that I worked on there, but nope, that's not on an exam. Amdahl's law, you do need to know, I skipped over something here. The Zen Core, I want you to know the neural network prediction and smart prefetch of that. And that's easy to know because it's all just summarized like right there and there. There it is, right? It's pretty easy. Breaking multi-core bottleneck, explain and graph how it relates to Amdahl's law. So you could say it in words or you could draw a little graph like this. Can't go past the ideal. It sort of implied that the first time I read through this, but it doesn't. You can't break the ideal, but it pushes the upper bound of Amdahl's law. And you first got to know what Amdahl's law is for scalability in multiprocessor systems. And parallel processing languages too. Program execution. Recent, it's just a Wikipedia page of processors. You don't have to memorize all that. Then we're down here, routers. Know the difference between a router and a modem. Don't memorize the details of all this, but you should know what a router is and what a modem is. Basic idea. Clean power, this first one's not on the exam. It's a lot of scribble. Actually, that one's without the scribble, but it doesn't have any notes. And then the second one here, this is clean power. You should just know page 1, what a transformer and rectifier do, and page 7, 6 things about clean power on there. So, just transformer steps down the voltage, rectifier goes from AC to DC. And then page 7 down here. Where's page 7? Page 7. These 6 things that affect clean power: steady state tolerances, swell surges, high frequency lightning, under voltage, interruption. Whereas most people just think about interruption, but if you're going to make a race for a computer room, like the stories I've told you where I had to do that before I got into high tech. It's actually building buildings for high tech in Texas, California. Okay, so more here. Virtual reality stuff. No, this is a sample out of more advanced classes, but how AI works in a more detailed way. That's and code for all that kind of thing. I'm not going to ask you all that. That's from advanced course. So that's not on there at all. And the same for the code. That's a YouTube. I'm not going to click on that. Virtual versus augmented reality. State one good and one bad thing about each. So yes. We have in here, good and bad. Each of these articles on virtual and augmented reality, and the last one having to do with game design. So just one good and bad thing. And, it's qualitative, of course, subjective. Oculus Rift VR, that's not on there. You know what that looks like. It's my YouTube channel, but
taking a family vacation in a Virgo means leaving all the craziness behind.
Well, you know what that looks like. It's on my YouTube channel, right at the front page of it. So it's right there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put that on the test. Minecraft stuff, not on the exam, ton of that. I won't click through all that, but that's some cool stuff if you take a look at all that. And different publications I did in London and in Japan. Human versus machine intelligence. Explain difference between symbolic AI and neural networks. Just that. There's a lot of other things that are in there. And so, there's a million things in here. But the basic idea of what's the difference here and here. And not all of this, I had thought about making that an essay kind of question. But I didn't put it on the review sheet here, so I won't. Makes for fun discussion. Then technology and humanity. Defend one technology that needs minimum regulation and one that needs maximum regulation, and why. So you pick one. And defend it. So you may completely disagree with me. That's fine. Make a good case. Make a good case. I like to hear a good argument. Not a hostile argument, but good discussion. So go through here. There's a million things in here. Right? We got through all this, good and bad. What I say is good and bad, in my opinion, or questionable stuff. Just find one thing. And gotta be something in here that you have an opinion on, you'd like to state more than anything else. Lots of stuff in there. And then robotics and artificial intelligence. No, I'm not going to click on that, but that's a whole million things in there. Well, I guess I will click on it. This stuff over time there. 57 slides there. But, and then our Ambassador Craig, our ambassador in residence here, he's done lots of national security things, Middle East, South America, national security policy in the White House with 2 different presidents and the British Embassy and others. And so hopefully you got something out of all that, but it's not on the exam. I won't even click on it. I'll click on the 100 questions here. You can see, and somebody can say, oh, what's that? Maybe go dig down in it. But this is all the questions for all these top security people. It's asked. Symposium, where lecture. Okay, whoops. One last thing in here. Down here, extra credits. Where is it? We had a, where is it? Oh, also watch Star Trek, The Measure of a Man. So we saw on Next Generation Data, Lieutenant Commander Data, a cyborg, who's worked his way up through Starfleet, and now people are questioning whether or not he's sentient, and people come back from the R&D lab for the Federation, and they want to take him apart. And it's a big trial of whether he's sentient or not. And so you should be able to answer a question about that, or you say, what's this other one? So some of you weren't here, and we have another 45 minutes here, so I'm going to play this other one now. It's pretty entertaining, and it answers or addresses some of the questions that a lot of you brought up when we were discussing sentientness, but sentience in cybernetics, and what we would actually like to have these artificial beings do, and maybe not everything that humans do. We had this 48 up to now, I think 48 different mental abilities, and maybe you don't want a robot to do all of it. So you can watch. We'll watch this now, and so I think that is good for the purposes of the review. If you're watching, so if our students, this is going to be closed book, closed notes, closed calculators. In here, Scantron, some multiple choice, some written essay. Yes. Okay. So I will now stop recording.